Alright, y'all, I hope you guys enjoyed that little music montage of our past season. That took me quite a while to make, so if you guys did enjoy it, please make sure to leave a like down below. I would really appreciate it. But yeah, without further ado, I wanted to talk a little bit about my overall thoughts this season, how it went, and my team's performance, so let's get into it. As a general overview, I have to say, this season's rules-wise has been definitely by far my favorite of all prior seasons we've had here in the Battle Hub Draft League. This season we obviously shifted to level 100 rules from the previous level 50, which in my opinion was a massive upgrade. Like, you'd be surprised how flawed level 50 is for singles when you actually like dive deep into the mechanics. We had a 10 Pokemon hard limit on each team, which I quite liked. A good budget to draft powerful teams, but with proper low tier Terra captains obviously, so Pokemon like Delphox and Primeape on my team had a bit more of a chance to shine. And speaking of Terra, the main change was obviously shifting from free Terra to set Terra types. Now, I could legit make a whole video as to why I think this ended up being a much better idea, but to quickly summarize it, it just made prepping for my opponent's Terra captains, especially the offensive ones, much less of a headache and a gambling guessing game, and more of a fair approach to this mechanic, which by all accounts is still quite powerful. But yeah, let's get into the team breakdown. So from top to bottom, obviously, here is my team and all the stats. I did not make any transactions for the Pokemon on my team this season, though I did change the Terra Crystals on Primeape once from Fairy to Water, but that was about it. So let's start off with the star of our show this season, Palafin. However, before I do that, let me guys tell you actually the full BHDL Palafin story and why this season's result has such significance not just for me, but for this league's history as a whole. Throughout BHDL's history, Palafin has been drafted in every single one by someone, and as expected, always in round 1 as well. However, the coach that had Palafin on their team has always ended their season at the bottom 3 of the standings, never even being close to making the playoffs. And like, everyone in our community was sort of scratching their heads as to why that was. Like, was Palafin actually a fraud and just a straight up terrible Pokemon? Was it just hard to pilot effectively, or was it never supported well? Well, the answer to that question mainly lies in those last two things. However, me personally, I always really liked Palafin. It's one of my favorite Pokemon from Generation 9, and I thought it had really good potential. And despite not being a perfect Pokemon by any means, otherwise it'd probably be banned, I thought it was really interesting. And so when I picked it up for my team this season, I wanted to try it out and I vowed to do better. And doing better, my guys, we did, because Palafin has had what could be the biggest redemption arc of all time this season, now being the crowning glory of our championship and ending in first place on the individual Pokemon leaderboards with 18 KOs and only 3 deaths. So yeah, how did we do this? Well, first of all, after having used Palafin myself, I am definitely on the verge of saying that this Pokemon is like actually broken. Its absolutely insane power lets it easily break through literally any bulky wall at once, even if they resist water. And in every single one of my games, if you go back and watch, without fail, it forced my opponents to use the Terrestrialization into a type that resisted water, and I still managed to muscle past that most of the time. We obviously ran a variety of sets this season and they were pretty much all successful, like whether we were trying to go for a bulk up and go for a win, catching our opponent off guard with a surprise special set, or just simply spamming strong attacks with Choice Band. Palafin really did it all, and it did it all well. However, there is more to this story, because this is exactly what prior coaches with Palafin tried to do as well. But what they didn't have was Zapdos. If I could think of any Pokemon that had literally perfect synergy with Palafin, it really is Zapdos. And you know, we'll get into it with the other Pokemon, but I'm really just happy that the team methodology that I had behind this team really worked out. All throughout our season, Zapdos consistently brought Palafin in and out of battle, threatening physical attackers with static and using its amazing pivoting capabilities to just get the job done. Zapdos is such a wonderful Pokemon to me because despite not being that particularly flashy or versatile, it is just one of the most reliable Pokemon at what it does, and time again it surprised me by how well it just fit into so many given matchups. And for a Pokemon that was mainly brought defensively, 10 KOs and only 2 deaths is absolutely amazing. So yeah, 10 out of 10, I would definitely draft this mod again sometime. Next up is Ting Lu, and my god, talk about a plaster check to literally every Pokemon in this whole damn game. Like, ludicrous bulk, stacks hazards like no tomorrow, acceptable offensive power as well. This mon just does everything. And once again, this Pokemon also surprised me just how like reliable it is, and the fact that it showed up to all but one of my games I think is testament to how good it is at what it does. I don't have much else to say about it other than, yeah, please consider this Mon if you need a reliable wall for your draft. It really does it like no other, and I loved having Team Leo on the team. Then we have Cyclizar, the only Pokemon on this team to make a return from prior season, our Season 3 run, and it once again delivered. Cyclizar is no superstar, but for what it does for only 8 points, what it offers is incredible. It's fast, it has knockoff, it can threaten things with high base power moves on occasion, and it just keeps hazards in check. Like, to be honest, Cyclizar is almost a Pokemon at this point that I don't even know what I'd do with my draft if I didn't have it. It just shows up to the games where you need it, it does its job, occasionally pulls a nasty unexpected trick like endeavoring something to low health, and just leaves it there. So yeah, I highly recommend this Pokemon to anyone who is looking for a good spinner, and I absolutely loved having Cyclizar. No problem with having drafted it a second time. Ogerpon Cornerstone, low-key, a Pokemon that I wanted to draft for the sake of doing so, since all other Ogerpon forms have been drafted already. And honestly, if anything, using this Mon was just a lot of fun. Like, Rock-type IV Cudgel is such a privilege that I forget it can't even hold an item half the time, and it genuinely is worth it. Although an item slot would have definitely helped me this season, this Mon was still very reliable. Sturdy lets it be an awesome spike lead, and its offensive profile is always something you gotta be careful around. I really noticed that Palafin and Ogerpon just formed an incredible offensive core together that was surprisingly difficult to handle for most teams. So yeah, again, despite its locked item slot, I really enjoyed using Ogerpon Cornerstone. I think it's actually my favorite Ogerpon form at this point. Alright, so then we have our first Terra Captain, Delphox, another Pokemon that, even though it did fit my team well by all accounts, I really wanted to use it, mainly because Delphox, for those who don't know me, is actually just simply one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. I absolutely love Delphox. It was incredibly fun using it this season though. Obviously our Terra types were Fire, Grass and Fairy, and I really liked how much we utilized all these Terra types pretty much throughout the season. Although I do think I did use Delphox maybe a little bit more than I should have, I did put in work almost every single game and was still very vital to our success. Its special breaking power was the main thing it needed to do since, well, I don't know how many coaches noticed this, but one of my team's biggest weakness is the difference in distribution between physical and special attackers. So because of this, I was very glad Delphox was able to just like reliably get the job done if we needed that special firepower. And I'm also very proud of the fact that he has 10 KOs, obviously. Now, unfortunately, not every team is 100% perfect, and there's always going to have one underdog. And despite the fact that it did what it was supposed to for the most part, I have to say Mimikyu was probably my most disappointing Pokemon on this team. I did mention in my draft analysis, but using this Pokemon, you really realize just how wimpy base 90 attack is, and especially when you rely on Shadow Claw as one of your stab options. However, I will say, despite this, Disguise was still an incredibly useful tool to have for us. That's why we actually did still bring it to a surprising amount of games. Mimikyu came through for us many times in a supporting role. So it was like the thing with Mimikyu, it was definitely no Morgrem that I had to like force to come to a game. But yeah, it was definitely harder to make work than others, and I was really hoping to like get at least one Swords Dance sweep with it, which we just did not. But still really good in supporting roles. Again, just hope and pray you don't miss multiple Will-O-Wisps in a row like I did. Alright, for this next Pokemon, I wish I could say I was talking about either like Iron Treads, Golden Go, Jirachi, or Metagross, but yeah, all of these Pokemon were sniped off me during the draft back then. So we settled for Revavroom, but do you know what? Revavroom was a pleasant surprise for me. Because of the fact my team already had a bunch of powerful threats, I noticed my opponents often neglected prepping for it a little bit, and literally up to 3 coaches really paid the price for that by allowing me to get a shift gear and just sweep them. And not just that, but this Pokemon came through for us defensively too. Like, for example, easily handling a Weavile in quarterfinals, which is otherwise very strong into my team, and generally just getting that momentum with like parting shot and stuff. I noticed people tend to not think too highly of Revavroom when it cannot Terra in a draft league, but honestly, I had a good time with it even without that, so definitely recommend it. And we have our secondary Terra Captain, Primeape, obviously. That one was mainly to fill some gaps in our team. It did still show up to half my games though, and it actually did more than I thought it would like throughout the season. We never really got a bulk up sweep, but the bulk this Pokemon possesses with a Violet in general is just absolutely amazing and let us hold back some big powerhouses and like keep them at bay. It sets rocks, it could Terra Ghost to spin block, and it easily threatened entire teams with little coverage. Like, all it really needed was the fighting Ghost stab combination. So yeah, Primeape, honestly, it really is like what it says on the thing. It's just a budget Annihilate, but even so, like, Annihilate is so good, you can afford to have a slightly worse version of it, and obviously because of that, it's a lot cheaper as well. So yeah, Primeape, I loved using this mon, really, really good. And then last but not least, we have Klefki, who I will personally admit I may have underutilized a little bit. But despite that, in the 3 games we did bring it to, it was still very pivotal in its role. Like, when it comes to setting up screens, laying down entry hazards, that's all it really needed to do at that point. When the draft initially concluded, I honestly had no idea what to spend my last 10 points on, but I am very thankful that I'm able to say now that Klefki was definitely the right call. And I have to say, my favorite thing about Klefki, undeniably, was just how much prep it forced on opponents that often made them, like, sacrifice moves that they needed from my other members. So yeah, I still think it was a good mon, and maybe next time I draft Klefki, I'll try to make the stored power set work, which I never really got the chance to, for this season. So yeah, that is it for BHDL Season 4. Once again, thank you guys for listening, watching my videos throughout this season, and congratulating me on my first Draft League win. I really, really appreciate it. As I said in the finals last week, I will be going back to uploading weekly Wi-Fi battles next week, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and I wish you an awesome rest of your day. Again, thanks for watching, and peace out.